Hello, it's Luigi here. Welcome to Vookcast. Let's go! Ho ho!
G'day folks and welcome to the Vookcast, Australia's Nintendo podcast. My name's Oliver Brandt and with me this week are Angelo Valdivia.
Hey paisanos.
Michael Goncalves.
Hey Tim.
And Luke Henderson.
Howdy.
We've got a great episode lined up for you this week, all about Tears of the Kingdom DLC, new Nintendo Switch bundles, our favourite games of the year so far, and more. But first, let's talk about Super Mario Bros. Wonder, because as with literally every episode we record, shortly after there was a Nintendo Direct, and it went over a whole bunch of stuff in Super Mario Bros. Wonder. So I haven't really written any notes here for it. It was just a bunch of stuff. It was like 15 minutes of just like showing us how the game worked, and there's a whole bunch of stuff like, you know, a bunch of different playable characters. Yoshi being like an easy mode character. You know, new transformations like Drill Mario and Bubble Mario. There's badges that change the way that you play, so you can have like a vine grappling hook, and there's just so much stuff there. So I thought we'd have a little bit of discussion about it, talk about, you know, what we liked and what we didn't like. So yeah, if anybody wants to speak their mind.
I have to start by saying Drill Mario is not a new power-up. He was in in Galaxy. He's been around before. This is just like the first 2D interpretation of the power-up.
It's kind of different though, because like,
does he
Drill
still
Mario
drill?
in the Galaxy games? Because like, I mean, yeah, but he looks entirely different. So, you know, the skill set is largely different.
No, I honestly, the thing that excites me most about this is the badges. Like being able to sort of modify, make the game slightly more challenging, make it slightly easier, depending on, you know, what badges you get. And because you don't just get the badges, you have to go find them. So it's like you're sort of rewarded for your effort with some of the badges. So I like that idea where you're not just running through the level and then, you know, you get a badge to celebrate. It's kind of like Mario World on the Super Nintendo, where you had to go find the keys to find the secret exit. And some levels had multiple keys with multiple exits and all that sort of stuff. I'm very excited for all that.
Yeah. Angelo, what do you think?
I'm just impressed that there is a plant breeder in the Mushroom Kingdom who is constantly making new flowers that just have all sorts of incredibly zany power-ups and things like that. Now we've got the Wonder Flower that just, I don't know, makes the world seem like even more of an acid trip than the rest of the Mushroom Kingdom always was. But no, I'm totally down with this. I don't think I need to see any more trailers at this point. I just want the game to come out. Yeah, super keen for it.
I'm honestly though surprised about the number of playable characters.
Yeah,
I just figured it'd be like 4 and maybe, you know, Nabbit. I wasn't expecting 6 different characters. You know, 3 male, 3 female, and then, you know, 4 Yoshis and a Nabbit.
What is the deal with Nabbit? Do we like Nabbit? Is he friendly?
He's a pain in the butt in New Super Mario Brothers U.
Yeah, he's a bit of a nuisance, right?
Yeah, so he's a nuisance if you're playing solo, but if you're playing multiplayer, he's the easy character. He's the one that can't take damage.
Yeah.
So, depending
but is he a bad dude?
He tries to be, I think.
Okay.
Michael, what do you
Mario
think
lore, that's all.
Michael, what do you think of Super Mario Bros. Wonder?
Yeah, I think it looks awesome. Like watching the Direct when it came out the other week was just pure joy for 15 minutes on how beautiful the game looks. It looks like it plays really well. There's cool new power-ups. Like there's, you know, great little comedy bits, and yeah, I love it. I cannot wait for this game to come out. My only regret is that it comes out the same day as Spider-Man, and that ain't compatible with my life.
I will say though, I'm glad there was some press outlets elsewhere that got like previews with the game, and one of the things you can do is turn off the flower voices. So as you're running past, you don't
I
have to
do not
hear.
want to do that. I love them so much. I think they're really cool.
Yeah, you like them now, but I'm sure after like 5 or 6 hours of hearing,
Nah,
let's go,
never.
wonderful, it'll get annoying.
No, we love it forever. Big Navi
I mean,
fan.
some of the flowers say some like really strange and kind of disturbing stuff as well. Like there was one in the trailer that was like, "Oh, I wonder what a Goomba tastes like," and it's like, okay, like why are you talking about this? Like, yeah, no, I think it looks great. It's nice to see, like, I don't know. With the first trailer, it was like, is this like just a new Super Mario Brothers game with an updated art style? But I think we saw that it is very much not that.
Well, the fact we got
in
new
the
enemies.
direct.
Like when was the last time we got a new Mario enemy?
I mean, new Super Mario Brothers U in 2D Mario at least.
Yeah, but what was the enemy?
The acorn guys that drop the acorns.
It's a slightly flying Goomba. It's not really a
yeah.
new
I
enemy.
mean,
$80, please.
yeah. But no, I mean, like, yeah, it looks absolutely phenomenal.
I do think though we need to talk about the monkey paw, and that is the online.
I
There are
don't
like 6 different
think it's
online
a
modes,
monkey
and
paw.
not one of them. It is a monkey paw because they're not offering the fact for like the 4 of us, we can't just play together. The modes they're offering are interesting, but it's like people wanted like one specific mode above all else, and they did every other option except the one people wanted.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a little bit torn as well, but I'll say one thing. I will take not being able to interact with everybody and the game playing super solid than everyone being able to interact with each other online and playing like Super Mario Maker online, which is just awful.
Well, so like I don't know that it would even be like Super Mario Maker Online because like we saw it with what was it? Super Mario 3D World on Switch had full online multiplayer and it was absolutely fine.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think I've ever tried it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, I don't think it's functionally all that different from if you were like playing on the couch. Like in the grand scheme of things, it's not really functionally different because like when you're playing on a couch, your characters can't interact with each other anyway, apart from like hitting a ghost or whatever. Like the only difference here is that like, you know, if you're playing online, somebody can't steal your power-ups, and if you're playing in couch co-op, somebody can.
Yeah, but it's not that. It's basically the Forza Horizon style where everyone is in the same sort of world, but you're not interacting with them.
Yeah, but that's exactly the same as like the multiplayer in like when you're playing on the couch, right? You're not interacting with each other at all. You can't bump into each other. You can't pick up or throw somebody.
You're still in the same world. You're still literally playing the game at the same time. You're in the same level. With the Mario stuff, there's no guarantee you'll be. You know, the two of us can't play at the same time. And
coordinate that. We can
just
wait. Am I misunderstanding? I mean, you can. I'm pretty sure there's a friends mode. You can play together.
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's essentially just like a closed lobby of the other online stuff.
Because you can just play together, or you can play like a race. There's like a race block in the levels, and you can race with each other.
Yeah.
I have to rewatch the direct thing because I don't recall that. But
no,
so
unless I'm misunderstanding how it works, you definitely can.
You can go online and it's just like random, or you could like create a lobby, which it effectively works the same way as the random lobbies, but you can like it's only your friends. So you can just with a little bit of coordination all decide to do the same levels, which you know that's why I say like it's functionally going to be largely identical.
Just explicitly play the same level. I don't think it's.
Well, the way that the lobbies work is that like somebody can back up and just like go do a different level if they want. Like you can't force somebody to do a level. But yeah, I mean, like in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's like that big of a deal because you can play with your friends and that's fine. Yeah, they'll just be like a little bit ghostly. But like if that's like all we have to complain about, like that's a pretty minor thing in the grand scheme of things to complain about.
I don't recall them saying about it being with you could do with friends. I thought it was just randoms, but
Yeah.
I still would like it just to be you're actually in the same level, you're all playing together. But if it's the way you're describing it, maybe it's not going to be so bad. They also announced that new Mario Switch too.
They did, and we'll sort of get to Switches a bit later. But the Mario Red OLED is like it's a red OLED. I'm kind of glad that it's not like fancier than it is, because like I don't want to buy an OLED, but I also really want an OLED, and I feel like if it was really good, I would have pulled the trigger on it.
Or if it was purple. If it was a Waluigi Mario Switch,
if it was a Waluigi Mario, yeah, easily. But yeah, I didn't need a reason to buy an OLED, and it did not give me a reason to buy an OLED, so that's fine by me.
I will say though, the fact that it's like $200 less to buy one from Japan is insanely hilarious to me.
Yeah, that's because the yen is super weak right now. Which is good if you're importing or buying stuff from there.
Or heading to Japan.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think it looks great overall. I'm excited to see all the different badges, because it seems like those are going to really change how you play a lot of levels. And apparently you can just ignore the wonder flowers as well if you don't want to do the wonder stuff. I don't know why you would, because it's kind of like the whole point of the game, but I mean...
It also looks great.
Yeah.
It looks so trippy.
Just the fact that you touch that, the first time you're playing that level, you have no idea what's going to happen when you touch that flower, right? Literally anything could change.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff where you don't know what's going to happen, that really hasn't been a thing in Mario games for a long time, because levels were very predictable and there was nothing new in them for a good decade. But yeah, and it'll be interesting to see. It kind of sucks that we still have to wait 6 weeks for it to come out, because man, I really just want to play it now.
So this is the thing, Mario Wonder just seems to be a Mario game that just seems to be full of surprises and just a lot of new ideas. Don't get me wrong, I was gonna say we haven't really had a Mario game to sort of fulfill that since Galaxy, but that's not really true. I guess Odyssey was that as well. But when I was playing Odyssey, I enjoyed Odyssey for what it was. It was fun, but it did feel a lot like, Mario 64, even Galaxy to an extent. I don't feel like there was a whole lot new happening in there where I was really kind of inspired to thrust myself forward through the game. I was just kind of doing it just because it was fun and it was charming and all that. Mario 3D Land and World, they were kind of cool because at least on 3DS, they were kind of an interesting technical showcase for how 3D worked and stuff. But I'm watching this, and it really does seem to sort of be not necessarily reinventing 2D platforming Mario, but just really throwing a whole bunch of crazy ideas out there and just doing some really new visual things that we hadn't really seen in a Mario game before. And I don't think Mario necessarily needs to reinvent 2D platformers or anything, but I think Mario definitely needs a reinvention of itself. I feel like this game is a really, strong step forward in that regard. And that's what I'm really excited about. It's just to see a Mario game doing incredibly new and different ideas. Gameplay wise, visually, hopefully story wise, but probably not.
I mean, you look at New Super Mario Bros. U. If I said what's one level in that game that you remember, fair chance you're going to pick the Starry Night level. The one that was,
remember that one.
the one that looks like the Van Gogh painting.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's the only level in that game that had a different art style. Everything else is very close by the generic, Mario look that that game had.
It all just looked like a Mario game, didn't it?
Yeah, but then that one level was very different for whatever reason, and it's maybe somebody slipped that in at the last minute and nobody caught it, sort of thing, So the fact that this one seems to be just embracing the weird and the wacky, I think that's where it's going to shine. Because as Ollie said, you're never going into a level, even though it might be a snow level or a desert level or whatever, you're still not going to know exactly what's going to come out. as you play it, and that's the exciting part.
So
I'm just excited.
I'm just watching the trailer as we're talking. I just got up to the online part. Yeah, so you can create a room and create a lobby with your friends, and you can either see what level your friends are playing, or you can play a level together, or you can race or do whatever you want to do. 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just excited for a Mario game that looks like it might genuinely surprise me. Because like I said, I haven't felt like that in a Mario game in a very long time, probably since the Galaxy games, really. And it's not a knock against Odyssey. I know people love that. It was just for me, it didn't feel especially new and inventive to me personally.
Yeah,
I think I know what you mean. Yeah, like Odyssey wasn't like an evolution. It was like the end game of refinement of like 10 years of 15 years of 3D Mario.
It felt like more of a celebration, and like again, that's not a knock against it. It just didn't really wow me in that respect.
It was the ultimate comfort food. You knew what you were getting. You were going to enjoy what you were getting, but it wasn't anything too experimental.
I think
it's fine to do that once.
Of saying it, like I super enjoyed Odyssey like a lot, and I think it's for that exact reason. Like I knew what it was. There was like a known factor to the game, and that's what made me like really enjoy it.
Sure. Let's move on to a game that was a hell of a lot more inventive. So Tears of the Kingdom obviously came out earlier this year, a few months ago now. Wonderful game. But according to Aonuma, there is no plan for DLC. So Breath of the Wild got 2 waves of DLC. The first one was just kind of it like added a hard mode and the Master Sword Trials, which were fine, but wasn't really that interesting. Then the second one
it also had the Hero's Path, or whatever
I was going to say. Hero's
that
Path
was useful.
Yeah. And then the second one added a whole bunch of like story stuff and was really interesting, and you got to hang out with Cass a lot, which was fun. But they won't be doing that for Tears of the Kingdom. So yeah, in an interview,
that means we won't get our motorbike now.
Yeah,
we got a motorbike in the last game.
Well,
Korok mask.
There still could be.
No, Korok mask is in the game already.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. There still could be updates. We kind of know a little bit from data mines that like when the DLC, when the new amiibo come out, there'll be an update to the game for that. But yeah, at the moment there's not going to be any like major expansion or anything. So yeah. Aonuma said in the interview, there are no plans to release additional content this time. But that's because I feel like I've done everything I can to create games in that world. So he also said in the interview that is going to be, the team is moving on to the next Zelda game. Which I'm hoping is...
See you in 6 years.
Yeah, I mean...
Switch 3, baby.
I'm fine with it taking a while.
God, no.
I mean, I am,
Please
right?
no.
It's like, I want something that is like different, and you don't get to different through short development times. Because like I didn't love Breath of the Wild. I had an absolute blast in Tears of the Kingdom, but like I feel like even that sort of gameplay concept of like the big open world, you can do anything, go anywhere. Zelda game is kind of like, there's nowhere else to go with that.
They've already said that, haven't they? That this is the formula going forward?
Well, they've said it's the blueprint, but then like in this interview, he said a bunch of times that they want to try something new and that might not necessarily look like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom anymore. So I
hope so. Because like we've said in the previous podcast, like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is not my jam like at all for a Zelda game. So I would very much enjoy that, but I guess we'll see.
Look, surprise, surprise. I disagree with the sentiment that something new can't be made in a relatively shorter development time, because Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, they came out within about a year or two of each other or something, and they're, while gameplay wise and mechanically, they're very similar games. Like in terms of tone, world, scope, and just overall story, like they are quite different games for different audiences. Even like there are camps that love both, but there are also camps that very strongly like one or the other. And and 3 years after that, we got Wind Waker, which again was a very different kind of Zelda game, different art style, and everything like that. So I think
Yeah.
being able to, and then we got Twilight Princess, which is again only 3 years after that. So I think 3 years between games really does work. Granted, we are in a more modern game development sort of space where it's unfortunate that in games we're of this expectation that for a game to be worth 60, 70, $80, it has to also be 100 hours long, which is
Yeah.
absolute bullcrap to me. I don't believe that
I'd
at
agree.
all.
I actually hate insanely long games. Like they
For sure.
deter me from playing.
And that's one of the reasons why I haven't really gotten deep into this game. And we'll hopefully come to that later on with our discussion topic. I haven't really gotten deep into this game because I know it's going to be a commitment, and I know that once I'm in, like I'm only going to be wanting to focus on that. So I'm trying to get some other games out of the way, and then thankfully I'm moving to Sydney in a couple of weeks, and I'm not taking any other consoles with me apart from my Switch initially. So I'm expecting to really just dive into this for about 3-4 weeks or so. But I. Like, the developers at Nintendo are very clever people. They know how to create new worlds, new experiences, and they can definitely do it with relatively shorter development cycles. So I do hope that we don't have to wait, a whole year one kid of time, for the next game. I think we'll hopefully get one within a couple of years or so, but we'll see. Even if it's just a smaller top-down sort of adventure or something like that. Like,
Well,
I'd be more
see,
than
that's
happy
the
with
thing,
that.
right? Is that like, if we do get like top-down adventures, and this is something that I've spoken with Vook about a lot, is that like, I don't mind like these like big, huge budget games taking 5 or 6 years to create, if we get like smaller experiences in the meantime. So like top-down games and sort of not even necessarily exclusively top-down games. Like you can make other Zelda games that are much smaller in scope and very different games. But I think like if they're going to be putting like hundreds of millions of dollars into a game, it's probably going to be quite a large game and take quite a lot of time. And that's certainly what they've been doing with the last 2 Zelda games, and I expect they'll probably do it with the next one as well. But we do need those sort of smaller games because, we talk about like, there was 3 years between Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, and if that was today, it would probably be closer to 5 years, given how HD assets work and all of that. But like in that small amount of time as well, we also got Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. And like those were smaller games that were a little more experimental, and they didn't necessarily land in exactly the same way, but they were still good games. So
we also got bloody Skyward Sword HD in between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and I know that's just a port, but we still got that one. I will say though, with the comment about how he's done everything, I would imagine, I honestly think Tears of the Kingdom is an expansion for Breath of the Wild. I said that in my review when I finished playing it. I'm like, it's great, but I've done most of this already. So, and I get new gameplay mechanics are there, but the fact that the world and the characters are all the same, to me it was an expansion.
I mean, what you've just described, Luke, is a sequel.
No.
It's like-
So Halo to Halo 2, like sequel, right? But there are new characters, there's new planets, and new things to do. Whereas this one is literally the same world. It'd be like if the new GTA was set in San Andreas again, like same as the last one, with the same characters.
Well,
So,
I mean, like
I
the
think
thing
you're
is,
saying
like
more
the-
same map rather than necessarily same world.
Yeah.
I would argue that Tears of the Kingdom does have a significantly larger game space than what Breath of the Wild did. I understand. I totally understand your sentiment. I get what you're trying to say, but I would argue that's the difference between the same map and the same world, quote unquote.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I definitely don't agree with that perspective because, like, obviously the map is kind of the same space, but like, a bunch of stuff has changed. There are different characters, new characters. Like, there's a whole bunch of new characters, and some of those are somewhat important, at least, to the story. I don't know. It definitely is a sequel to me. Like, I don't.
Maybe I'm the odd one out because I've played through both games, whereas I think I'm the only one that's played through both games because we all know Ollie didn't like the first game.
Oh, I still finished it. I didn't 100% it, but I got all of the memories and did all the beasts and beat Ganon, so...
Okay. I just assumed you'd never actually finish the game because, at how much you say you disliked it.
I finished it in the lead up to Tears of the Kingdom because I was like, well, I should do it justice.
Fair enough.
And I did not enjoy it.
Yeah, I just think they've gotten through everything they can in this world. And even though, like, DLC would be nice, like, new missions or something to do would be fun, I honestly would rather them come up with a new world and a new storyline. Because I think for the mainline Zeldas, like, and I'm saying mainline, not ports or anything, but with a mainline Zelda, there has to be a hook that makes me want to play it. And if we get Breath of the Wild 3, or Tears of the Kingdom, or whatever you want to call it, that wouldn't draw me in. It might draw in another 10 million players to buy it again, but I need something more.
Look, again, another potentially controversial opinion here, or even thought experiment, but I wonder, like, if this is going to take another 6 years to create, right? Like, consider the leadership of Nintendo in that time. Shigeru Miyamoto ain't young anymore. Al Numa ain't young anymore. Would these people still be working at Nintendo in 6 years? I mean, they're like in their mid to late 60s at this point. They're very well into their retirement age. I do wonder if you've got like a game director or even like any sort of like creative lead making all these blockbuster stories and games and artistic pieces and things, and they kind of come out saying like, I've kind of like, emptied the bucket on this. Like, I don't really have anything new to sort of say with this. I do wonder if that means that there is the need for like a change of direction or leadership or something like that. So I wonder if they might be setting this up for a new generation of game developers to sort of take over the Zelda.
Here's the thing though, they already did. So the actual director of Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild is Hidemaru Fujibayashi, who originally did the Oracle games, and then Minish Cap and Phantom Hourglass, Skyward Sword, and Breath of the Wild. So like he's the actual director of it. Aonuma was just the producer, which obviously is still an important role. But the actual like direction of it, the story was largely penned by Fujibayashi as well. So we're kind of already in that second phase, I guess, of Zelda.
I would argue that this is more of a transitional phase, and I'm saying like at what point do we fully transition at that, you know what I mean? Like, when do we finally get there? I feel like even like 10 years ago, Miyamoto was saying, he wants to sort of bring up the next generation of game developers to sort of take over the Mario series and things like that. And I think like it's still sort of being referred to that as like this is still a transitional period. And it's just like,
well, we see it with Mario Wonder. Mario Wonder has like a very young sort of director, but then I can't think of his name. But the other guy that was sort of around when the first Mario games were made, I honestly can't think of his name. But he's been doing that since the 80s, and he's still around overseeing Mario. And it's like, at what point is he going to, get told to shut up and let the new guys do everything on their own, rather than being a guiding
I think like Mario Wonder, like we've seen, is very much a big step in that sort of direction. So yeah, I think it would be. I think the next few years for Nintendo will be very interesting to see what they do with their next generation of Nintendo games. Zelda definitely being one to watch out for.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, like, arguably, Mario Brothers Wonder is like the first game of the next generation of Nintendo leadership, because it is like the first game that Shiro Mori is the director on it, and it's the first new game that he's directed. He also did New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, but I mean, like, directing a port like that is not quite the same as a brand new game. So yeah, this is the first time he's like been the lead director on any game. So yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of that with established series. I mean, we've already kind of seen it a little bit with the Metroid series, when Samus Return, and then Metroid Dread, which was like a totally new direction for the series.
Metroid Prime 4, see that in 6 years.
There's a question for you. Which comes out next? The next new mainline Zelda game, or Metroid Prime 4? Which game comes out first?
Metroid Prime 4. Easily. I don't think it's disputed at all.
I've still got
Uh,
bets on that game getting revealed this year, I think. I can't even remember what my prediction was.
It was revealed.
I'm such an idiot.
I honestly I honestly think it's a lot closer than people think it is. I think people are going to be really surprised when they reveal Metroid Prime 4 and they're like, oh, by the way, this is out in 3 months.
Dude, at any moment in space time, people are going to be surprised when that game gets revealed.
Yeah, I mean, it's been in development for 4 years now, so I mean, Retro knows their in-house engine very, very well.
I mean, you'd hope they know it at this point.
Yeah,
but also Nintendo's no stranger to just kind of finishing a game and then sticking it in the warehouse for a year or two.
Yeah.
So. I definitely do think if Metroid Prime 4 is announced soon, it'll be a cross-generation game and not a Switch-only game.
Yeah, I might agree with that, to be honest.
And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it's straight up finished right now and they're waiting for the next console to make it a cross-generation game.
It could be an incredible swan song. Let's be honest. If it was the last game from Nintendo on the Switch, it could be a great swan song. But I think it's going to do the Twilight Princess Breath of the Wild thing where it's going to be on both.
I think so.
I'll admit that.
I mean, with any luck, we'll have backwards compatibility, so it'll be on both anyway.
Fingers crossed.
So we're doing a lot of talking about a Switch successor here.
I mean, we'll get into that eventually.
Okay.
I think that'll probably be our next main discussion topic in the next episode about the Switch successor. Kind of see how this next week
the episode
pans
I'm not
out.
going to be here for. That's fine. That means the episode will be an hour shorter.
Yeah, so no more Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm totally fine with that because I played that game for 90 hours, and I'm happy with not ever going back to that game.
Well, I ain't even started it yet. I'm very much looking forward to finally doing that.
Alright. Move on to the next one. There's a bunch of new Nintendo Switch Online games. Just go through them quickly. There's Quest for Camelot on Game Boy Color. It's a bit crap. And then there's a bunch of Japanese games. So there's Downtown Neketsu March Super Awesome Field Day. Just a wonderful name for a game.
No.
In the West, we know it as River City Ransom. And then we've also got Joy Mech Fight, which is where the classic Suckapon character comes from.
I mean, they probably call him Sukapon, not Suckapon, but sure.
Yeah, but everybody calls him Suckapon, so... yeah.
The other one...
Exactly it.
Yeah, the other one, the Kirby Star Stacker, that actually got they remade that game for Game Boy, and that got that was on the Wii U, the Wii Virtual Console, and everything. It's like, hang on, you can't demake a game to Game Boy and call it a remake. That's not how it works. You can't go to inferior hardware and call it a remake.
Oh, you better tell every company that made multi-platform games for the Game Boy in that case.
Yeah,
that's the thing. They're just adaptations. They literally, Nintendo called this a remake when they released it on the Game Boy.
Fair enough.
Anyway, yeah, so all of those coming. So the latter three there, River City Ransom, Joy Mech Fight, and Kirby Star Stacker, they're in Japanese, and it's the first time they've been officially released outside of Japan. They're kind of. It's a bit weird because they've all. I mean, Joy Mech Fight is it hasn't had a release outside of Japan. Kirby Star Stacker has kind of a little bit, as Luke mentioned, been a bit weirdly introduced to the West. And obviously there was River City Ransom as well, which did get a Western release, but was very kind of different. So it's the first time the games in their original unedited forms have been available. But the downside is that they're entirely in Japanese, so if you don't know Japanese, you're kind of screwed.
Well, they're not exactly like RPG powerhouses here with walls of text.
I mean, if you go into Joy Mech Fight, all of the menus are in Japanese, and I think the Downtown game is kind of the same.
They did that. Mario Picross. That was one of the earlier games that came across.
Yeah.
It was a Japanese release, and Nintendo released a video separately that sort of explain the menus, like how to get into it. And I don't know if they've done that for these. I haven't looked into it, but
They have
it
not.
wouldn't surprise me if that is the plan at some point, is to release more information on them. But I would have imagined it'd be out by now. I will say though, even though Quest for Camelot is not the best game ever, it is interesting because it's the first Warner Brothers game that's been added to the Virtual Console in any way, shape, or form. So it's nice to see another company getting on the bandwagon there.
So I'm just looking at legendsoflocalization.com, and I had to find out what the characters say in the Japanese version when they get beat up in River City Ransom. And instead of saying "bath" like they do in the English versions, they say "ge." So a little bit of trivia there for you. Just thought everyone in the world should know.
Yeah, I mean they like replaced a whole bunch of sprites and like backgrounds and stuff. It's largely just like a different game. I mean, like the layouts and stuff are all the same, but like all of the graphics are essentially different. So, yeah.
I also mentioned in to Vook that Titus, the developer for Quest for Camelot, is also the same developer that made Superman 64.
Yeah.
Which I don't think we want to open that can of worms, but I just thought that was interesting. Like, yeah, Alone in the Dark was the first non-sort of Nintendo-related game, to hit, and then the second one is from a developer that's not that well received historically.
They have like a couple of like real great games, but then like those are all like tied up in like super weird rights issues.
I don't care if those games are incredible. They're tarred with that brush that is Superman 64.
Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, they should put Superman 64 on Nintendo Switch Online just so everybody can like see what it was like for everybody playing it back in the day.
I just want to know if it'll run like 60 frames a second.
I was just thinking that, like,
Yeah.
will it even be running like it was? Like, I don't think so.
Twice as
I mean,
fast.
see, the thing is, right, like, when that game, like, runs at a higher frame rate, it becomes almost unplayable because, like, you need that, like, slowdown in order to actually get through the rings in that game. So it'll be interesting to see if they do ever put that on there, and it does have a frame rate boost, because it would be very funny if they just release a game that just cannot actually be played. I think that would be great. People would get mad, but whatever. So, Michael, unless you have anything, I mean, your stance on Nintendo Switch Online is always the same, is that you have way better ways to play all of these games.
Yeah.
But
like,
yeah.
Cool. People get to experience them. If they don't, cool.
Yeah.
I will say though, the Kirby game is like, yeah, more Kirby on Switch because there wasn't enough Kirby games on Switch already. I think this is like the 9th version of this bloody block matching puzzle game that the Switch Online has.
Yeah,
So I think it's more every single Nintendo mascot character's got one of these games on there, except maybe Link. I don't think there's a Zelda themed version yet.
Imagine being a parent in like 1991 and you're buying these puzzle games for your kid and they cost like $120.
Yeah. Imagine being the kid, honestly, like getting like, super expensive gifts that you have to be polite about, but they're all kind of shit.
Yep.
Yeah. Alright, speaking of things that are kind of a bit shit, what a segue. So Nintendo has revealed 4 new really, Switch bundles for 2023. So there's like 2 Animal Crossing Switch Lite consoles, which are like literally just the teal and the pink Switch Lites, but they have some Animal Crossing like decals painted onto them. And then there's one with like Mario Kart, because of course there is, because there's always a bundle with Mario Kart. And one with Nintendo Switch Sports. And now none of these have actually been confirmed for Australia yet. And I don't think anyone cares. Because, like, I don't understand what the point of these... Like, obviously the point is to sell shit over the holiday period. But, like, Animal Crossing, like, limited edition consoles, like what, 3 years after the fact now?
Yeah, this is something that should have come out when the game did. They had their console bundle with the dock and all that. They should have had the Lite. Even if the Lite came out 4 or 5 months later, when they realized, hey my god, this game's a hit, we should probably do something more. Unfortunately, Nintendo moves at such a pace where they're either really, really quick on something or they're glacially slow. There's no There's no in between with Nintendo, and this is one of those glacially slow moves.
I kind of. Let's not get into pronunciation again. We'll just be here for hours.
Yeah.
Shenya. Shenya.
But yeah, I mean, like, I kind of suspect, and like, this is like my big conspiracy theory about these bundles is that like Nintendo has like a warehouse full of like Nintendo Switch components, and they don't really want to use them. Like they don't have much use for them soon, because there's another console on the way, so they're just like trying to make them as attractive as possible as they ship them out the door.
And they made this
bundle
bundle
same
attractive.
thing about the Switch Lite consoles. Like they just found a whole ton of teal and pink shells somewhere, and like, well, guess we'll print some stuff on the back. Limited edition console. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, like, I like the thing is these consoles don't really sell. We know from the breakdown of the sales that Nintendo gives, like the OLED sells like more than the Switch and the base model like combined, and it's not a very close margin at all. I think like the last one it was like 70% OLEDs, and then the rest was like
the light from memory was minuscule.
Does not sell. Yeah.
God, I really hope that they pay attention, because I swear to God, if a Switch 2 comes out and it doesn't have a goddamn OLED panel,
I guarantee, man, that thing is not coming with an OLED panel. 100% it does not come with an OLED panel.
It just
it'll
doesn't
come with
make
one
sense
2-3 years later.
Yeah, later on we'll be getting the new hat version, but yeah.
I can forgive. Oh, this is gonna. I
Oh,
can
boy,
forgive
here we
an
go.
LCD
No.
if Michael,
No, go.
if it has VRR, if it has variable refresh rate, and it's an LCD.
Well, get an OLED panel that just has VRR, because it's like just natively in the display tech.
Yeah,
look,
but like the thing is, like it's expensive, right? Like, it
but
does
TVs
cost
these
more.
days, like new TVs from the last like 3 years, have VRR in them. I see handhelds with VRR in them as a bit of a waste. Like, because I'm not playing with the console up here, so like 120 frames, like unless it's like up here, like it's not going to matter to someone like me. I feel like it just needs a smooth 60 FPS and just nice light, nice color.
Yeah, I mean, like we kind of know that like that Nintendo's going to be using Sharp's LCD displays, which Michael won't be happy about, but we know that they're using IGZO, which is like a super low energy, super high contrast display, which is a nice display, but it's still LCD. At the end of the day,
I will forgive an LCD display in Switch 2 or whatever the hell it's called if the price is far cheaper than what Switch launched at. If Switch 2 launches at 150 bucks,
it's going to be. It's what they're going to do is they're going to release it at or like slightly above the OLED price point, and then like drop the OLED down to like base Switch levels now, until they sell the rest of those.
Agreed. I would be very surprised if Switch 2, Super Switch U, where the fuck it's called, is anything less than OLED Switch price.
I don't think it would be, but that's what I'm saying. If they did release it at a far discounted price, like, hey, I would then be okay. That's why we've got an LCD. That's the only reason I would accept an LCD in whatever the next console's called. Is if it's a significantly. But then again, the Switch has been out. We're coming up on 7 years, and that thing's never had an actual proper price drop. We've had sales, but we've never actually had a price drop.
Yeah.
Which is
thankfully we also haven't had a price increase.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nintendo was making money out the gate on their console, so I don't think they need to worry about that one.
I think that's why they haven't dropped the price, because they're like, we don't need to drop the price. We also need to increase the price. We're just going to keep this baby smooth sailing.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is like it still sells money, and they make money on every.
It sells money.
I mean, it prints money.
A license to print money.
Yeah, it sells gangbusters, and like they don't like they make money on every console sold, so they really don't need to do that. And like, I mean, unfortunately, like it in a mark against the Switch 2 having an OLED. Nintendo makes like considerably less money on an OLED than they do on a base Switch. The profit margin is much smaller.
I don't like it. I didn't like it when PlayStation had the disc version of the PS5 and the discless version. I didn't like Xbox with their Series X and Series S. I didn't like the Wii U and the Wii U Pro. I hate that shit. But if there's a Switch 2 that comes with an LCD and a Switch 2 that comes with an OLED at launch, and there's like a good price difference between them, if they offer me the choice, I will get the OLED. That would be the only time I would accept there to be a secondary model of a console at launch. Not one that has extra storage, not one that doesn't come with a bloody cartridge.
So I have this theory about what the okay, we're just talking about the Switch 2 now, because I have this theory about like the Switch 2 is going to be, right? And I think it's going to be like a unified kind of like larger Switch Lite. I don't think there's going to be like removable Joy-Cons, because like they just Joy-Cons are just forever tarred. I don't think they're going to do them anymore. So it's just going to be like one like sort of unibody device, like kind of like a less chunky Steam Deck. And then you'll be able to buy it in like 2 separate sets, right? So you'll be able to buy it with the dock and like a Pro controller in the box at a higher price, or you'll be able to buy just the console and a charger. It'll fit in your existing dock, and that'll be that. And that's how they'll do like the 2 price tiers.
I am not opposed to that. I don't know if they'll do Pro controller in the box though. I can picture it just the dock and the console.
If there's no removable controllers, then they have to.
I mean, if it supports Joy-Con,
of course, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they could always just have it support the Pro controllers, just like what they did with Wii to Wii U.
Or do they not even do a bundle and just have it as everything comes separately? You have the Switch console, you have a dock that you can purchase and pre-order, and you have a controller that you can purchase and pre-order.
Going full Apple.
Just save the packaging.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I kind of feel like that's like, because I think if Sony have 2 different price ranges and Microsoft have 2 different price ranges and Nintendo currently has 2 different price ranges, I think it would be a little bit odd for them to launch a new console and it's just like one price and there's no cheaper version of it. And I think that the way that they get around that is by having it compatible with the old dock. We know that the OLED dock can go up to 4K. I mean, who knows if the Switch 2 will get to 4K, but we know that the OLED dock is compatible with 4K. So I feel like that's the way to go.
I just wonder if the dock will... I wonder if the dock will have some sort of hardware in it to give it a little bit of a performance boost once it's docked.
I think that would unfortunately be really just not viable. Like eGPUs have to go through USB 4, and USB 4 would just skyrocket the price and put a huge drain on the CPU. So like you're like gaining a whole bunch of GPU power, but you're losing CPU in the process because it needs to handle all that I/O, and it's just it's not viable in a device like that, unfortunately. Okay. I mean, like, in 5 years' time, maybe.
I think that would be the wrong move anyway. I don't think that's a good idea.
You think? Okay.
No, I just, like, from just a technical point of view, like, having your power split between a handheld console and then this extra thing that some people might have, it never works out when you split the market. I don't even mean like,
it's
happening right now with the Xbox Series S. Like,
but I don't even mean something that's like a significant power boost. I mean just something that just keeps things stable at a 4K resolution, and then when you undock it, it then just has enough power to run the exact same games at a similar performance, but at 1080p.
That's realistically what should have happened with the Switch now. Like that's the whole point. Like you dock it and you get a higher power profile. You get obviously like, you know, this fan can ramp up like higher, all that type of crap. But the Switch just isn't really powerful. It's just restricted in so many ways with the CPU and GPU and the RAM speeds. Like everything is just working against the Switch doing that currently. So hopefully they've learnt all their technical shortcomings with the current Switch, and they're just improving that a lot.
Yeah.
Slight deviation. I love that, like, going back to what we were talking about, I love that a lot of people's reaction to seeing this news about a new Mario Kart bundle was just everyone going, oh great, there's a new Mario Kart bundle. And Luke was the only voice that I found that was like, new box though.
I noticed it because I'm like, oh, that's got like a gradient background. There you go.
Silver lining right there.
Oh my god.
I mean, it shows that Nintendo at least put some effort into this Mario Kart
But
bundle.
I don't know why anyone cares about the bundles. They're not for current players. They're for new buyers. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
it is what it is.
And as we know,
people that are,
everyone
like,
buys
getting
Mario
mad
Kart.
about it.
And as we know, everyone buys Mario Kart with their Switch anyway.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, there's a whole bunch of, like, capital G gamers getting, like, mad about these bundles on Twitter, and it's like, who cares? Like, this isn't for you anyway.
Yeah,
like,
that's it.
just, like, jog on, mate.
If you're on a
Literally
gaming
just
forum
jog
or you're
on.
on Reddit or any other gaming social media, these bundles are not for you. These bundles are for the grandmother who found out her 6-year-old, 8-year-old grandchild is into games. These are who those bundles are for. They're not for anyone listening to this show.
Or, like, the parents who are looking for, like, a big win on Christmas morning, so they get a game and a console that everybody can play, which is, Switch Sports or Mario Kart. Like, that's what it is. Like, it is not for people who already have a console. I mean, if you're interested in that, get the red Mario OLED, which...
Yeah.
Sure.
Or, nerds who want to play Animal Crossing.
Imagine being a kid and you really want the new Nintendo Switch, a Nintendo Switch with, like, a great party game, and then you open the box and then it's just like the Lee Carvalho's Party Challenge version of the Switch, which comes with Switch Sports. It's like, oh no.
God.
Yeah. Anyway, one last news thing, which is just an interesting, weird thing that got announced, and that's that Borderlands 3 is coming to the Switch next month somehow. It includes all of the DLC, like all of it, and it's a full price release. So in the US that's $60, and here it's probably going to be $100.
$89.95. I actually looked it up on the eShop because they also have screens up on the eShop, and I've got them up in the video now.
Right. Do they look terrible?
No. They look decent. Which is kind of surprising.
I'm gonna have to look this up now. I mean, like, I don't know what kind of engine is that running in? Is that like an in-house? No, it's Unreal Engine.
Unreal.
So I mean, that's not super surprising. There are good-looking Unreal games on the Switch. But
yeah, the only thing that I don't know is I don't know who the developer is on this. Obviously, 2K, Take-Two are the ones publishing it, but there's nothing about who's actually doing the port work. And the studio that did the pre-sequel and 2, they're finishing off the Batman trilogy port at the moment, or they're assigned to that work. They also did the Tony Hawk port to Switch as well. The Tony Hawk 1-2 remake, they did that as well. So that studio is very talented, but I just don't know who's doing this one yet. So
yeah, look forward to more old games. Woo!
I mean, with this,
it'll make games as well.
But with this, it'll be the full Borderlands experience on the go, minus
you'll be able to play
spin-off
through.
game.
Yeah, you'll be able to play pretty much all of them.
Yeah,
and guarantee they do that super expensive $150 bundle for the Switch eventually as well.
probably.
Absolutely sure they will.
I did chuckle because I've had the game on all the other platforms at some point. Like Borderlands 2 for like $10 on the PS3 and all that sort of stuff. Like my PC and my Xbox, they're all like, "Oh, you own some of these games. Here's a discount." I'm like, "Yeah, but I only own them on the other platform." So that's interesting. But mind you, I do appreciate the bundle, but it's like it shouldn't be that much. And I get, but we put effort into this. Like, yeah, you put effort into it a decade ago. Stop trying to scam people out of money.
Yeah. That's very silly. Anyway, like, I thought Borderlands 3 was like a just truly shit game. I played it for like 5 hours and just noped the hell out. I just could not care anymore.
It's not the best. Honestly, Borderlands 2 is probably the best out of the 4 main entries. And the biggest problem that Borderlands 3 has is it takes like the beloved character from the franchise and kills them off.
Yeah.
It's like okay.
Spoilers for anyone getting Borderlands 3 Ultimate Edition on Switch next month.
I mean, I didn't say who. I didn't say the character's name, just in case. But yeah, I don't know. It's just I'm appreciative that they're doing it, but it's like this is the sort of thing they should have announced 2 years ago. Like within 6 months of the game hitting the other platforms, they should have. Oh, by the way, we're working to bring it to Switch. You know, we got the others all of a sudden, and then they just sat on this one for years.
Yeah. I mean, in any case, like don't buy it. Just buy Borderlands 2 because that often goes on sale for like $15 on the eShop. So
yeah, I mean, even if you check out the retail sales with their download codes, you can get like all 3 of the current ones that are on Switch for like $20-$25. So
yeah. Alrighty, let's move on to our featured discussion. So we're in September now, 3/4 of the way through the year. So I thought we would see what everybody's been thinking about games, you know, this year so far. Obviously, we've got a lot of big hitters coming up. My workplace is absolutely terrified about like the next like 3 months because, boy, there's a lot of shit coming out. But there's been a lot that have come out this year. So I thought we'd talk about our favorite Switch and non-Switch games because I know not everybody here plays a ton of Switch games. For each of us this year.
I was about to say, I feel like that was squarely directed at me.
No. I mean, I changed the topic specifically for Angelo, I think. We were just going to do Switch games, but I know that like Angelo hasn't been like super big on the Switch this year, so...
Not at all.
Yeah. I mean, if you do have your favorite Switch game of the year so far, you know, let us know, but...
Oh, look, I'll just jump in first because mine will be super short. Like, I've like dipped like a toe into Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm like, yep, this is going to be fantastic. I'm going to play this later, probably start again, just so I can really put the time it deserves into it. But really, the only game... there's only 2 games that I've really been playing on the Switch this year. The one that I've spent any significant amount of time on was finally finishing Eastward, which I bought like 2 years ago. God damn, I hate that game so much. I really did not enjoy it, but I spent $40 on it, and I was gonna see that game through. Yeah, I'm sorry to say, it is not a very good game. So I'm very glad to get that out the way. But surprisingly enough, the other one that I've been playing is Pokemon Shining Pearl. Been finally getting into that. Just needed I've been hitting a bit of a streak with a lot of JRPGs this year, and I just had an itch for a Pokemon game. And decided to finally go back into Pearl. Started it when it first came out, got like a gym or 2 in, and just decided to start it up again, just to kind of power on through. And yeah, it's sort of scratching the itch. I'm really enjoying it. I'm one of those weirdos, I guess, that just really like a very traditional Pokemon game. Just go out there, catch Pokemon, beat the gym leaders. That's it. That's all I want to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really me for the Switch this year.
That's fair. What about non-Switch games, Angelo? What about?
Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah, I don't really know. There have been some pretty good games this year, but unfortunately, it's just that moment where like just none of them really just stand out to me because there have been so many good ones. Really enjoying Ishin at the moment. Gone back to that with my partner. Yakuza, is it Like a Dragon? Or just Yakuza Ishin?
It's Like a Dragon now. Yeah.
Super digging that one. I wouldn't say it's like one of the best ones, but it's just super enjoyable and fun to go through. I guess an easy one to say that I was kind of disappointed by was Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I really wanted to like that game a lot more, but that one, technical issues aside, it really didn't sort of do anything landmark for me. Didn't really put forward a particularly interesting Star Wars story, I thought. So, yeah. I don't really have much to add to this.
Yeah, that's fine. Michael, I suspect that you'll be in a similar position to Angelo here, so tell us about your favorite Switch games, at least.
I have 2 favorite Switch games for the year, and both of them are remakes of old games. Surprise, surprise. One is Metroid Prime on Switch. It's just... Metroid Prime is a banger to begin with, and I think the remake?
Remaster.
Remaster.
Is it a remaster?
It's a remaster, yeah.
It's a pretty intensive remaster. Like, it is so good. Like, they just nailed it. It's like super, super fun to play. And the other one is a game I'm still playing now, which is Ghost Trick. Like, I just love that game so goddamn much. Like, it is so awesome. And I'll spruik it to the end of time. It's one of those, like, underrated gems that not a lot of people talk about. And I'm glad that it got a re-release on Switch. And hopefully more people pick it up or have the opportunity to pick it up. Because it's really sweet.
Before you move on to the... Yeah, go on.
I was just saying, what I love about that game is that despite the fact that its main theme is death, like it's just such a happy, fun game.
Yeah,
it's so good. It's just
full of life.
Yeah, it just feels so good to play.
I was going to say, before you move on to non-Switch games, I think you're forgetting something there.
I knew this was going to come up. I might know what you're talking about, and I will see what it is. But I have such a bad memory of video games that come out like a certain time period. Like, it's really, really awful. But I might guess, are you talking about Advance Wars?
I was talking about Advance Wars, yeah.
Yes, okay, cool. So I will talk about that. I think that's probably going on my most disappointing game of the year. Just because I don't like the remaster at all. Like, I will much rather play the GBA versions than the remaster. It just... I think the new graphic style, and it isn't necessarily just moving over to 3D, like, it's fine, but I think the combination of moving over to 3D, the lower frame rate and everything, just the combination of everything, just, I don't know, just takes away a little bit of the charm of the old games. It just isn't the same. I don't even know how else to explain it. It just has a different feel that I'm not a jam of. And I'm really sad about it because I was so hyped for it for so long.
Do you feel like it would have been an easier pill to swallow if it had come out last year?
Would
that have made a difference?
Yeah, maybe like a little bit. Like, obviously the delay definitely didn't help, like, the whole situation. But it's one of those games that, again, like, I think I wasn't the only person that was hyped about it. I think a ton of people were. And it came out, and then I didn't really hear anyone talking about it, like, at all. I don't know if everyone was in the same boat that I was, or if everyone was feeling sort of the same way. It just sort of, like, disappeared into the background.
I mean, unfortunately, Michael, I kind of feel like it got the reaction that Advance Wars games get.
Fair.
Which is, like, quiet indifference for the vast majority of people.
Yeah, fair enough.
Another one that I know, I'm pretty sure you played on Switch.
Oh god.
I don't know how extensively. Is the Switch port of Vampire Survivors, which came out last month.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a banger. Like 100%. Like, straight up. Like, that game is like straight up cocaine.
It's absurd.
The only reason I'm not playing it further on Switch, and I played it on Switch like launch day, I think I posted in the Vookcast chat that, like, I bought Vampire Survivors, and then, like, 2 hours later, I was like, oh my god, I've been playing Vampire Survivors for 2 hours, and I just have lost time. And the only reason I'm not continuing playing it is that I'm waiting for a cross-save feature. I've progressed so much on my PC save file, and it's not like I couldn't do it again. I 100% can. It's one of those games that has this infinite replayability, like, style to it. I just much prefer to continue playing the game, like, cross-save on Switch and PC. But it runs beautifully on Switch. At least the stuff that I've gotten to at the moment. Like, the game, when you get to proper end game with all the limit breaks and everything, gets real bonkers. So I've not seen any gameplay like that, but, like, for the stuff that I've been, like, I play the game, like, to the full 30 minutes. And it ran totally fine, which is something I was very, very happy about, because
the Unity rewrite, like, massively helped for that.
Big time.
And, like, on every platform as well, because, like, it definitely did have performance issues on basically everywhere.
Yeah, I had performance issues on my PC on the old version. Like, when you get to the end of certain levels, like, it gets hectic.
Yeah, no, I definitely know what you mean about, like, just, like, straight up losing time to it. Because, like, I didn't pick it up until the Switch version came out. I got it a little bit before it came out, because part of the job. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you play I don't know. This was like again my first time playing it, and I played it for the first time, and I was like, oh yeah, that was pretty fun. And then I like did another run, and I was like, you know what? I'll just do like one more before I go to bed. And then it was like literally 5 a.m. and like the sun was starting to come up, and I was like, holy shit! I've just spent like the entire night just like playing Vampire Survivors.
Yeah, it's definitely a one more. I'll have one more game type of game.
Yeah. And what about non-Nintendo games, Michael?
Non-Nintendo games, just hands down, Baldur's Gate 3. That game is incredible. If that game doesn't slam dunk Game of the Year from basically every single outlet in the entire world, I'll be very surprised.
Yeah, if I can just interject, as soon as I finished talking, I just realized I was a huge idiot, and I'm like, oh, of course, Baldur's Gate 3. I spent like 2 weeks just 100% right into that game. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Baldur's Gate 3 is definitely the best game that I've played.
Very well made. It was mostly bug-free when it launched. There's no microtransactions. Like, they took their time in making and crafting a really, really like beautiful game. And don't get me wrong, like I've seen the patch notes. They fixed about 7.8 trillion bugs. But it was nothing that was like game stopping for the most part as people were playing through it. Which is super nice.
The cheese is now aligned on the table correctly.
Yeah, totally.
That sort of bug.
It was funny though, like seeing them like the first like major update that they did. I was like, oh yeah, this is just like a small update. By the way, it's such a big update that it cannot fit in the Steam patch notes. Like they had to link away to like a second website where they hosted the patch notes. But yeah,
and I understand the game's not for everyone, right? Like it's a turn-based RPG based on the D&D franchise. That's can be reasonably slow-paced, like a lot of the time. But if you enjoyed like that type of gameplay and enjoy RPGs, like it's a great year for it. And yeah, I'll be, like I said, obviously there's a whole ton of games to come. But if this doesn't win Game of the Year, and that's in a year that has Tear of the Kingdom out, like that's a huge like head-to-head battle for Game of the Year, like by far. So I'll be really interested to see what happens.
Yeah, just going on from what you're saying, like I think what's great about Baldur's Gate in particular that has seemed to strike a lot of people well is like there have been other like D&D type of CRPGs out there, but for me the ones that I've experienced like Divinity and stuff like that, I feel like those games are an RPG or an adventure game that try to fit around D&D or incorporate D&D elements, whereas this game feels like D&D to me. That fits around an RPG. It's sort of like just a sort of different approach to it. And I love playing this game and literally seeing like the die rolling on the screen and adding modifiers and all these kinds of things. And it really does feel like you're playing like a tabletop RPG.
The thing is, like it like the way it implements how people roleplay in D&D is like genuinely one of the most genius things that I've seen in games. Because like there were a lot of things like when I started playing it, it was like I was playing it like a video game and like getting my ass absolutely handed to me in just about every scenario, inside and outside of combat. And then like somebody said like, well, like roleplay, like play as if you're like a fucking like druid who is like on a journey to do something, get into their head. And I was like, well, that seems stupid, but I'll give it a go. And like honestly, like it does change it. Like I'm still seeing things on Twitter. Like the other day I saw that like there's a locked gate, and like instead of like picking the lock or like killing somebody to like get the key, you can like transform into a rabbit and then just like jump through the bars. And it's like of course you can. That's what you can do in D&D. But like there's no video game that does that kind of thing. So it just never comes into your mind. But then once you know about it, it's like, okay, so there's all these possibilities.
While we've been playing, I've had like Steam notifications come up of like friends playing games, and just saw a friend launch Starfield, and then about 60 seconds later launch Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm like, perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Alrighty, Luke, tell us, favorite Switch game? Or games, I guess.
It's tied, Metroid Prime and Tears of the Kingdom. Just Metroid Prime, Nintendo provided me a code for that one, and I smashed it out in like a day and a bit because I just love that series and I love that game. And it was just so well done. And then Tears of the Kingdom, I'm like 155 hours into it. And I was like,
Crazy.
yeah, that's. I mean, I smashed through a lot of that for the review, and then I got to that period, like late June, early July, where there was like nothing really big coming out that would that I needed to worry about. So I just kept playing Tears of the Kingdom, just doing random things. So yeah, that's sort of the two games that really sort of caught my eye on Switch this year. Obviously, like Red Dead Redemption, like I love playing through that again on Switch. But it's not a new game, so I know Metroid Prime is not a new game, but Nintendo actually took their time to make that look good, whereas Red Dead has a few issues across the board there. So
Fun. All 3 of my Switch games weren't new games. Not even Vampire Survivors. That's been out for ages on PC.
I played Eastwood.
And non-Nintendo.
Non-Nintendo, I honestly play so much, it's kind of hard to keep track of things, but
For real, man. I totally get it.
it is a first world problem that only exists for like half a percentage point of select people. But I'm the opposite of Angelo. I really enjoyed Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Honestly, I don't think Cal Kestis is an interesting character. I think he's a dunce of a character. And like the whole plot twist at the end is like, okay, cool, except that's one of those plot twists that they've just thrown in. There's been no indication of it at any point up to that point.
I agreed with that. Like once it was coming up, I'm like, oh, I didn't see it coming, but it also just kind of was like, oh, it wasn't really exciting either.
Yeah, it's like when it's like with Harry Potter, when Alan Rickman revealed it after the films were done, he got told the plot for his character by J.K. Rowling at the end of the second film. He said, I can't do this character unless I know what's going to happen because, and there were reports coming out all the time about, after he passed, people were saying, oh, he would do the character this way. And I'd ask him why. And he'd be like, because, he wouldn't tell because he knew what was happening. So it's sort of influenced. If you go back and watch it now, he knows what's happening. So his performance is slightly different. The problem with Jedi Survivor is there was nothing to indicate that was going to happen. It was just there. And I was like, okay. So I liked the gameplay, I liked the worlds. It sort of refined everything from the first game. So I really enjoyed that. I also liked Wild Hearts, which was the Monster Hunter game from the Team Ninja Folk. That was a fun one. It obviously it got real grindy, like all Monster Hunter type games do. But I still enjoyed my time with it. And then more recently, I've been putting a lot of time into Starfield. So that's my other non-Nintendo, non-Switch related game. So,
Sorry, I had like a brainwave while you were talking. This is such a massive side note, but this is the Vookcast, so it happens all the time. But can we just talk quickly about the goddamn Jedi Survivor patch 7 bringing 60 FPS to consoles finally, and by turning off RTX? Why did that take so long? That is absolutely insane.
It's probably the porting studio that's doing the Xbox One and PS4 versions that, they had to turn it off for their versions. And then they went, hey, do you know if you do this, it fixes it? And they kind of just went, oh my God. That's probably what happened. But yeah.
I don't understand why it even launched in that way. Like, it's so weird.
I wonder if there was some sort of like technical exclusivity clause that they had to include RTX for a certain amount of time or something like that.
I don't know, but we've seen it happen in a few games now where RTX has been the reason for it, and it's
That's what I wonder.
Here's the thing: is RTX. I understand that ray tracing is real. I understand that.
What does that sentence mean?
I understand that ray tracing is real, but I cannot tell the difference. If somebody showed me a scene and they're like, no. All right, if somebody showed me a scene without comparisons, right? Just like a scene, right? I would not be able to tell if a ray tracing was on or off. Oh my God.
This is why DVD is the biggest selling physical media still.
For real.
Take note of the date and time because I'm going to blow your mind. I actually agree with Ollie on this one.
My God, no.
Without the comparisons, right?
There are moments
it's just
where I can
impossible to tell.
Like Cyberpunk, for example, I spent hours just flicking RTX on and off, walking through different areas and stuff like that. And there were some moments where I could be like, oh yeah, I can sort of see that there's some reflection happening with these puddles and things. But for the most part, the only thing that I can tell is that the game is running at 30 FPS. That's the only difference I can tell. Like, I'm just getting terrible
This-
performance.
It hurts me so much.
But like that's the thing, right? Is that like all of these developers put like so much thought and time and like they put so much importance on RTX, and then like people who like are gaming enthusiasts can't even tell the difference. Like, do you think the regular person can? Like, because they can't.
Look, I understand. Like, I definitely can. Just for me, I would preference performance over RTX pretty much any day. Like, look, is there a difference for me? Yeah, 100%. But like, I would still want the game to run really well if that means turning off. Also, can we just, like, I need it. Like, I know I started this on the podcast, but I don't like it calling it RTX because it's just like it's like calling it tissue or Kleenex. We should just say ray tracing. It just it triggers me.
Yeah.
But like honestly, genuinely, if like Switch 2 launches and it has no ray tracing capabilities, I will not
totally
lose a
fine with it.
single
And
second of sleep.
Yeah.
To
I
be,
think so.
to be honest, it shouldn't have any ray tracing capabilities. It will not be powerful enough to do stuff with it, and people shouldn't be using it.
But no, like as I said, like without like a comparison, like if there's like a slider on like one of those websites, it's like, oh yeah, it shows RTX on and off. Like I can tell the difference there. But like if you just showed me like a bare screenshot, I was like, is this baked in lighting or is this like ray traced? I could not tell you. Genuinely would not have a clue what to look for.
The biggest problem though with ray tracing is it only works in games where there's a lot of additional lighting. Games where it's like natural lighting, like you're out in a field or something. Or like even Spider-Man on PC in the daytime, like that doesn't really show off ray tracing. But when it's nighttime or the sun's at a particular angle, that's when you can really notice the ray tracing, in effect.
Yeah, for sure. But like, I think to be honest, I think the biggest advantage of ray tracing for games is development time savings. Because the fact that you can just turn on or put on ray tracing in a game and set up like a sun or whatever, and then lighting is for the most part like taken care of, is such an incredible time save.
But then we're like seeing. Sorry, I was just gonna say, like, we're seeing they have to create like some sort of baked-in lighting system regardless, because like not every system can use ray tracing. So like, is it really saving them any time if they're like,
especially today when you can change between modes, right? You can flip between a performance and a quality mode. So.
For sure. No,
I think like on consoles, like just turn like don't let any developer do ray tracing on consoles. That's not worth it. It's always bad.
I just feel like ray tracing came in just a bit too early. I feel like that's probably something they should have saved for like a 0.5 upgrade of this gen.
That is 100% going to be the thing that like a pro version of consoles is going to be about, is improving ray tracing performance.
Well, if you remember, this is deviating even further, but if you remember when the PS3 and the Xbox 360 launched, those consoles launched as the HD consoles, but they're always 720, right? But everyone kept marketing it as HD, which yes, technically, but it's like that's not what they were saying, right? So when the Xbox One and the PS4 launched, they went, "Hey, we've got full HD now." And it's like, hang on, no, you just spent an entire generation telling us you had it. And even now, at the end of the PS4, there are games that can't stay at full HD, right? So since 2006, we've been waiting for these consoles to deliver full HD, and they still can't do it. The fact they think they could do ray tracing
just came out. Is that that Vernian game? Immortals of
Immortals Avium, yeah.
Yeah, Avium.
It's in my
runs at like 700p or something.
Yeah, and like as low as like sub 480p. Like it's lower than like if you're playing on a
insane. But to be fair, sorry. Not to be I want to say to be fair to ray tracing, that's because it's running UE5.
Yeah,
and they
were like,
all their stuff
on,
is like
check
CPU
all those
based.
boxes.
And that's just destroying console CPUs.
I just want to draw our attention back to the fact that this is supposed to be best Switch and non-Switch games.
Sorry.
About ray tracing.
Oh my god.
Yes, Switch known for its
folks.
ray tracing capabilities.
Hello and welcome to the Vookcast. Oh god.
Alright, I'll talk about my favorite Switch games then. So my favorite Switch games, I think, are not really games at all, but they're DLC.
Doesn't count. We said games, not DLC.
I make the rules here.
Content, not games.
So the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 DLC, the final one, was a really, really lovely and fitting end to like 15 years of that story.
What a
made me
shocker.
cry a
Ollie
lot.
likes Xenoblade content.
I know. And then there was another one that was DLC. Return to Castlevania in Dead Cells. So I only played like Dead Cells like this year for the first time, in anticipation of the Return to Castlevania content. And damn, it's good. Such a good
For
game.
a moment, my brain just like glitched out, and my brain interpreted that as Return to Castle Wolfenstein. And I was like, there was a Return to Castle Wolfenstein DLC? What the fuck is that?
For Dead Cells.
Return to Castlevania was really, really good. I reviewed that on PC, and then when it came out on Switch, I bought the game and all the DLC on Switch as well. And like I've never done that before. If I play something on a console, that's where I'll play it. Except for Kingdom Hearts, which I own on all the consoles because I'm an idiot.
Except Switch.
Except Switch, because it's not on Switch.
Are
Everywhere
you
it
even
is.
a true fan? Are you even a true fan, Ollie?
I literally I bought the Xbox, like the disc Xbox version of the special edition, and I did not have an Xbox with a disc until like 3 days ago. So yeah. Yeah, and then I don't know. In terms of like actual games on the Switch, I mean, Tears of the Kingdom probably has to be at the top because I've probably spent the most time in that. I'm trying to think of anything else that's come out on the Switch this year. There's been a
Pikmin,
lot.
Advance Wars.
Oh,
Pikmin?
Everybody
Pikmin
want to
4.
Switch.
Yeah, it's everybody want to Switch. That's my game of the year now. Yeah, I mean, I bought Pikmin 4, and then I like literally haven't even put it in my console yet. Yeah, I don't know. I've been playing a lot of Switch games, but it's all been like stuff that like is from the past few years rather than stuff from this year. Just because like Tears of the Kingdom, I think like took so much out of me, and like Switch stuff, I was like, I can't play like new games anymore. I have to just work through my backlog.
Look, if there's one thing that Angelo and I can agree on, is that the Switch is excellent at playing old games.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't even have a choice. There's just nothing else to get.
I played through the 3 Donkey Kong games on Virtual Console, the Super Nintendo ones.
Oh yeah, I mean, if we're going to talk about best Switch games this year, Oracle of Ages, damn, what a great
Fair.
game! I'm 20 years late. I mean, I'm not really 20 years late to this conversation because I loved it as a child as well. But 20 years later, I'm still talking about it, and it's great.
Yeah.
And I actually finished that like about a week ago. It was really good. But yeah, on non-Switch games, that's a tough one because I've played a lot of stuff this year. Diablo is... Oh, this is going to be... Diablo 4 is probably my biggest disappointment. And, like, that's weird to say because I, like, enjoyed the heck out of it. But then, like, I got to the end and I was like, oh, okay, I'm done with the game. And, like, there's nothing else for me. Like, it's just, like, there's seasonal content where I have to start a new character every single 3 months now. And it's like, there's nothing more coming for me.
That's a game that I'd love to see a current player count on. Because I reckon that would have tanked.
I remember like in the weeks leading up to the game, there was such a fervor for it. And then about a week or two after it came out, like there was just nothing. I didn't hear of anything. And then Baldur's Gate 3 came out, no one stopped talking about it. Like, everyone's talking about that game still.
The thing is, right, like, it takes you like 50 hours to finish like Diablo 4. But then, like, unlike previous Diablo games where things are like somewhat randomized or like, you know, there's differences between playthroughs, like there is nothing in Diablo 4. You just like once you've played through it once, there's literally no reason to play it a second time. And like I tried out some of the seasonal content. I got like up to level like 20 and I was like, what am I doing? Like I don't care. Like I'm just at this stage it's literally just like clicking numbers to make them go up. And I just did not care anymore.
Baldur's Gate 3 came out more than a month ago on PC now. And right now there's still 367,000 people playing the game. Like, it's got some longevity to it, like big time.
Yeah, and Diablo 4 just doesn't. And like, I don't know, Blizzard seems to be like really shitting the bed on a lot of stuff lately. But I think like part of the reason that like Diablo 4 is like so bad is that like, well, again, like it's a fine game the first time you play it. But like I've played through the campaign of like Diablo 3 like 20 times, and Diablo 2 like probably 100 times, and like enjoyed the hell out of it. But like the problem with Diablo 4 is it was built from the ground up to be heavily monetized and be a live service game and be like a light MMO, and it's like it's just not it. So like yeah, while I like enjoyed the heck out of it and I gave it like I think a 7 or an 8 out of 10 on when I reviewed it, like it just once
like I
I'm done with
said,
it, I'm
I
done with it.
generally like to know numbers because, like, obviously the same thing happened to Overwatch. You know, I don't want to go deep into that right now, but like that seems to be working for them. Like
Yeah.
they seem to be making an absolutely disgusting amount of money from it. So maybe the same thing's happening with Diablo, where like you don't really need that like next level insane player count because you just have this relatively high compared to other games player count that are just spending an absolute boat ton of money.
Yeah, just a community
Yeah.
of whales, basically.
And like I feel like that's it. And like it's weird to me because like I don't know, I didn't want to spend money on like the cosmetic costumes and stuff because I played through the game and like all of the costumes that you can get like while playing through the game are kind of like subpar, and that like very immediately signaled to me that like they made those costumes subpar so that you would buy the cool ones from the shop, and that just like turned me off ever buying anything from the shop, like just like as an act of defiance.
I don't believe in spending more money on games you've already paid an entry to,
Yeah.
and I don't even like paying money to games that are already free. Like, so like for someone like me, even like it's just
Yeah, like
I don't know where this game's supposed to exist.
if Diablo 4 was like a free-to-play game, like I would be like, yeah, sure, spend some money on some skins, right? Like get the battle pass.
I think that would
But,
definitely
like,
would have changed things.
the fact that there is like seasons every 3 months and there's like battle passes within those seasons, and then there's like the super premium battle pass that gives you extra stuff, and it's like it just like every part of this is like player hostile, and it only appeals to like the people that are vulnerable to those kinds of manipulation tactics. And like that's why it's my most disappointing game, because like it's a good game, it's just everything that isn't the actual gameplay is so just like truly terrible to experience. So yeah. But in terms of good games, I mean like Starfield's fine. I'm playing a bit of that. It's okay. It's just Skyrim in space, which
It's Fallout in space is more accurate.
Yeah, but it's missing VATS though, and I feel like VATS is like the best part of the Fallout experience.
But
That's
if
the
you
only
like
reason
screw-
it's there.
But like VATS, if you like screwing around in menus, hoo boy, Starfield's the game for you.
So we're talking about this before the podcast. Like, I really enjoy Fallout, but I can never get into Skyrim, and I certainly can't get into Starfield. Like, I feel like Fallout is so much more than any of those games just because of the world it's built. It has its very unique Falloutness, the comedy, the absurdity, the high tech, like 50s like era stuff that goes on.
Retro future,
yeah, retro future stuff. Like it has its unique thing where like I don't feel Skyrim is just I'm gonna get fucking roasted. It's just generic high fantasy land, and I guess Starfield is like generic sci-fi land. Like that's fine. Like nothing necessarily wrong with that, but like
I'm somewhat enjoying Starfield at the moment. I was saying before as well that like this is definitely I can already foresee that I'm going to fall off at some point and just basically not come back to it, or come back to it years later and not know what I'm doing. But my biggest issue with a lot of like these Bethesda RPGs is that it's slow moving, and not in the sense that your character or the gameplay sort of like doesn't have any sort of real momentum to it. It's that there's constantly things slowing you down. Like whether it's you have to dick around in your menus to manage your weight and all these kinds of things, or you got to quickly like reassign some things to do with your character, or you have to go back and read through logs, or there's just you're constantly navigating menus and always having to stop. Kind of like
the
Sonic,
game
right?
mechanics get in the way of gameplay instead of enhancing.
It's kind of like Sonic. Like it's all about going fast, but then you have to stop because you hit a spike, or you have to jump on things, or like you just want to keep playing the game. You want to keep moving forward. You want to keep talking to characters and exploring, but then you just have to manage so much stuff as well. I just find it just bogs everything down. It overcomplicates such simple things. That's my problem with it, really.
I will call out though, Starfield has one incredible aspect to it. If you're like 7 layers deep in the menu, you just press and hold B, and it takes you right out. You don't have to keep
so many
tapping
games
B.
should do that.
But my issue with that though is that I start getting into the star map, and in my head I'm like, oh, press B to just leave out the menu. It's like, no, it takes you out a layer of the star map, and then another layer, and then another layer, and then I'm like, oh, I have to hold B to leave.
No,
So
I
At that
get the
point, you've
opposite
already
annoying.
gone back all of the layers
Yeah,
anyway.
I get the
so,
opposite
yeah.
effect.
that's annoying though. But I just appreciate pressing and holding to exit the menu, no matter how deep you are in. It just takes you out.
Yeah.
I appreciate.
No, I
that.
agree. Once my
It's
brain
just
can
like-
sort of make that connection, it works.
Anyway, in terms of good non-Switch games, I've just been talking about games that I haven't liked. I feel like Resident Evil 4 is like up there.
Oh my
I really,
god!
really
Oh, I forgot about
ad-
that one.
Adored the remake, and I was like not super hot on the original. Like it's a fine game, but not a great game. But like
I love the original
just
so much.
everything
played-
from start to finish in the remake is so good.
Luke and Michael, have you guys played the remake?
No,
No.
I've barely even seen it.
Oh damn, it's so good. It is absolutely delicious.
I have no interest in playing the remake.
Nah,
I
man,
like-
you owe it to yourself. I think you owe it to yourself to play it. It is so much fun.
I definitely have
I-
interest.
so
I,
good.
I bought there was a humble bundle for like Resident Evil that was recently. They had every Resident Evil game bar 4.
Yeah, I bought the same thing.
Yeah, great, insane value, and also for charity, slide that bar to max charity. Thank you. But I'm definitely interested in playing it, like for sure. Like I enjoyed the game when it came out. I have no doubt I'd enjoy the remaster.
Yeah, not the
Remake. Sorry.
the original RE4 didn't really do much for me because I came into it quite late. But the remake, can't believe I forgot about that one as well. I absolutely adore the remake. That is
I feel
so
like
good.
You know a game is really good when Angelo and I both like it, because
Yeah, I know,
that
right?
never happens. We
What's
always
going
have
on?
just diametrically opposed opinions.
I don't like today's podcast.
This is like 3 times these two have agreed on something. Don't forget, there's also Dead Space at the start of the year.
Yeah, and that was good. That was really, really good.
Man, I'm trying to
Um,
think of like big game releases 2023. Let's go
I'm just
Google.
Street
This is my
Fighter
problem.
6, Final Fantasy 16. It's
This is
been
my problem. I'm such a
banger of
goldfish. Like I'll
games this
play
year.
games and I'll love them, and then I'll move on to the next game and completely forget about the one that I just played.
Like I'm very passionate about is slight side note about like internet privacy and everything, but at the same time I wish I could just be like, Google, tell me games that came out this year that I enjoyed, and it would just
Yeah.
know.
yeah,
I mean, there was an entirely brand new One Piece adventure game that came out at the start of the year as well.
oh yeah.
It's a
Yeah, that's-
JRPG that was like made by the people who like did the combat implementation for Dragon Quest XI. So it's basically just Dragon Quest XI, but with One Piece characters.
It's also the same studio that did the Shining Pearl and remake.
So you
for
know that they
Switch.
can actually make a high quality game if they have the budget to do so.
Yeah.
And just looking, there's so much stuff. Octopath Traveler 2, I mean that was fine. Wolong Fallen Dynasty, that was a game that existed.
It's another one.
Hi-Fi
I'm
Rush
into.
dropped earlier in the year as well.
Oh my
And
god,
another
Hi-Fi
from Tango.
Rush, what a great game that was too.
Yeah.
Man, there's just like been so many this year. What I didn't like, okay, Dead Island 2. God, I tried so hard to like it, and it just is the worst. It's the worst. Like, because like, it's not a terrible game, but like, I don't know. It's just like it's aggressively mediocre, and I think that's worse than being bad. Like every single thing in Dead Island 2 is just like the most middling that a thing can possibly be. So I think that's worse. Also, Redfall, that was kind of shit.
Oh, Redfall.
Pour one
Man,
out.
I had
remember
such high hopes.
we're all so hyped for it. We're like, yeah, let's
Yeah.
get together and play for it. And then that first gameplay like reveal dropped. I remember
And
messaging the chat room like, holy shit, this looks so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, Atomic Heart is another one. Until that turned out that it was like written by a 12-year-old from a broken family. Like that game was just
Oh, goodness me.
such a cringy game.
I just reminded myself that the Avatar Last Airbender game's coming out at the end of this month. That's gonna be that looks so awful in the trailer.
It
I thought you were
does,
talking about
yeah.
the mobile one for a second. I'm like, the mobile one's been out for a while. What are you talking about?
No.
Yeah.
The one that looks like it's a mobile one, but actually isn't, which is even worse.
I love that on tonight's episode, we've started about 4 different podcasts.
I mean, if people are regular listeners to this podcast, they are 100% expect this.
I'm so sorry to anyone who is new.
I mean, I just went through like a list of like 30 of like the games that came out this year. I'm just like, oh yeah, that one was kind of shit. That one was alright.
I feel like we're past that COVID hump where there was just a lot of games that were kind of like stuck because of COVID. People couldn't get into offices and work together and all those kinds of things. And now we're just in that lovely grace period of games finally coming out. And there's just a steady slew of good stuff.
I mean,
which is great.
The best reason for that, best example of that ever is we've already had Street Fighter 6 this year. Mortal Kombat's out in a couple of weeks. Like, so new Street Fighter, new Mortal Kombat. There's a new King of Fighters coming out. And Tekken 8 is launching in January. So and Killer Instinct is being remade or remastered for the new platforms as well this year. So literally within the space of like 8 months, we're getting like every major fighting series all at once.
Man, that Killer Instinct remaster like announcement, like what the hell? Like who asked for that? Like, are people playing Killer Instinct still?
There are fans. Like I remember when Killer Instinct on the Xbox One got that announcement, that combo breaker. Like people lost their damn minds.
I'm sure there are fans. I'm sure there are people like who play it, but like enough to justify like a remaster?
I know, right? It's so strange.
That's really odd to me.
Anyway, for anybody listening, Tekken 8 looks great, but don't buy Tekken 8 until or unless they confirm that Eddie Gordo's in it. Just for me, don't do it. Because Eddie Gordo is the best Tekken character, so...
Or just play it safe and get Street Fighter, I mean, let's face it.
Yeah, I mean, like, with the character creator in Street Fighter, you could probably create Eddie Gordo anyway, so, you know, you don't need...
If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably a Nintendo fan and you have a Switch, just play Super Smash Brothers and have Street Fighter and Tekken in the one game.
That's true. Street Fighter is one of those awkward ones, because, like, I really want to get into 6, but I'm like... I know in a year's time there's going to be like a way better version with about 20 new characters in it, so I'll just wait for that.
Yeah, they're going to, like, I don't know, they'll make like an ultimate edition and it'll have like 70 new characters and like cost less than the base game did.
Super Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 6, like Championship Turbo or something like that.
So there's a funny thing about Street Fighter 6 right now is that like 5 weeks ago, they started the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover thing.
Oh, the one that costs like $100 to buy all the...
Yeah, if you want all of the stuff, it costs $100. But like, I wouldn't ever do that anyway. But what's really funny about it is that like Street Fighter 6 players are like going insane because all that happens now is in the lobby. It just plays the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles theme song over and over and over again, and it's been doing that for 6 weeks now, and they still haven't ended the promo. And I just think that's absolutely it's exactly that. And it just plays it over and over and over again. And it's not a long song; it's only like 40 seconds long. So like you can be like queued up for a match and like waiting for a couple of minutes, and you've heard it like 5 times.
Is that because they can't take it out of the lobby until that movie has released in every territory in the world, and Australia is like the last one?
I think so. Maybe. I think like maybe they're just like waiting until like the next promotional thing that comes along.
When does it come out? Is it this week in Australia?
It came out just the other day.
Oh, it came out on Thursday. Okay. Yeah, I saw it today. Really good.
It's a really good movie.
I really want to go see it.
Looks amazing.
Welcome back to the Turtle Cast. But no, it's
our 7th Splinter podcast for this podcast.
I think we need to move on. We're at an hour 40.
We do absolutely need to move on.
Oh my god.
Hi, this is Charles Martinet, and you're listening to the Vookcast. Woohoo!
Alright, so let's move on to our Nintendo 20 questions. So I am the answer person this time. I've got the game. This game actually comes courtesy of one of our listeners, so I saw it and they actually sent me a gigantic list of quite difficult ones. I think I picked like one that's quite in the middle of it, so...
I think we know who it is then.
Well, I'll tell you afterwards, huh? Lay it on me. Questions.
Was this game released in the 90s or after?
In the 90s or after, yes.
Was this game released January 1st, 2010 or after?
It was released January 2010 or after.
Yeah. Was this game released on a home console?
It was released on a home console, yes.
Cool. So Wii U or Switch or Wii, I guess as well. Was this game released? Oh, sorry, go.
No, please.
Was this game released on a disc-based console?
This game was released on a disc-based console.
So you could have narrowed it down and said, was this game released on a disc-based console with the best discs ever made?
Is that
The Wii U.
Fuck, I could have.
The Wii U discs.
Yeah, the beautifully edged discs.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Disc-based console. Was this game released on the Wii U?
This game was not released on the Wii U.
Cool. The Wii game.
Instead of there being like 300
Narrows
games, it's now like 50,000.
Yeah, totally. That narrows it down to like nothing.
Was this game published by Nintendo?
This game was published by Nintendo, yes.
Yeah, okay.
You would think that cuts it down, but
Was this game developed by Nintendo?
it was not developed by Nintendo.
So Nintendo published but not developed. That narrows it down a little bit. And just to clarify, when we say not developed by Nintendo, we're counting their studios like Retro Studios and Monolith, correct? Because they're owned by
Yes.
Nintendo.
So,
Okay.
no company that is owned in part or in whole by Nintendo developed this game. Yep.
Does this? Yeah, okay. Does this game have motion controls?
Okay, so here's the thing. I haven't played this game in a while. To my knowledge, it does not have motion controls.
Okay.
When I played it, I can guarantee I did not use motion controls, for whatever that's worth.
So it sounds like it's.
When you played it.
So it sounds like it could be a Switch.
What do you mean a Switch game?
Because it's unlikely to have motion controls.
It's a disc-based game.
Oh, right. I forgot about the disc. Okay, never mind. Sorry.
I was like, what?
Well, in that case, that would mean either GameCube or Wii U then.
No, we know it's on the Wii. Because
It's
we
definitely on the Wii.
disc-based console after 2010, and I asked if it was on the Wii U, and he said
Oh.
no.
Where am I right now? Like, what am I doing?
Well, who am I?
Sorry, biggest brain fart just then. I don't know what's wrong with me.
All right, so was this okay? Does this game feature any recognizable Nintendo characters?
This game does not feature any recognizable Nintendo characters, no.
Because that sort of knocks out things like Fire Emblem, because Intelligent Systems isn't owned by Nintendo.
So wait, did we ask if this game had a disc-based release or was it on a disc-based console?
Well, we narrowed it down to the Wii because we asked if it was on a disc-based console.
Right, so
And
it could be a
then-
downloadable game in that case because you said it doesn't have motion controls. Trying to think of what Nintendo published games on the Wii that wouldn't have motion controls.
We could ask if it was a download-only game.
Yeah, okay. Was this game a down? Should I say if it was initially released as down? Yeah, I guess it's the same thing, right? Yeah. Was this
Yeah.
game a downloadable game?
Wait. Oh no, go. Yeah, sorry, my bad.
It was not a downloadable game.
Okay. So what was a disc-based game that didn't require motion controls?
I'm stuck on the whole
No,
Nintendo
no.
published thing.
No Nintendo characters.
I mean, it could be Spectrobes. Nintendo published that in Europe, I think, from memory. Pretty sure Disney published that in the US.
What about like a Xenoblade
Yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles would have come out after 2010.
or one of those RPGs of that ilk that
The
came
Project
out as part of
Rainbow
the-
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all on the Wii. So Lost Tower.
And those were published by Nintendo, or at least a couple of them were, weren't they? Or were they all?
No, they're all published by Nintendo.
Right.
Because Xenoblade Chronicles was picked up by Nintendo UK, which is why they all have English accents in the
Right, I
series.
just gotta remember if all of them were published by Nintendo.
How many questions have we asked?
10.
Exactly halfway. Maybe trying to figure out like what type of game it is.
It wouldn't be Xenoblade because I would argue that they're recognizable Nintendo characters at this point.
I wouldn't recognize them except for Shulk, only because he's in Smash. But that's me.
He's the main character of that game, so
Sure. But that's what I'm saying is like I wouldn't know any of the other ones. That doesn't say much.
all right. Does this game feature combat?
This game does feature combat, yeah.
Okay, so it knocks out sort of racing games and all that sort of stuff.
Is this game an adventure or RPG?
Yeah. Really getting 2 questions right there. Yeah, it is an adventure or RPG, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So it's not like a racer, it's not a puzzler.
Adventure or RPG?
Because I know sometimes we split hairs on whether a game is an adventure or an RPG game.
Is this game part of a series?
This game is not part of a series.
Okay, it's not Xenoblade.
Right, Xenoblade's out.
So the only other one that I can remember is Lost Tower. Lost Tower? Oh god.
Could just ask if it's part of Project Rainbow.
If he says no, then we're in trouble.
Well, 'cause I don't think of any other adventure RPGs that aren't a Zelda game. That were published by Nintendo.
Yeah, that's the big one. The only ones I can think of would fall into that. But again, it may not be an RPG at all. It may just be like an adventure game.
Yeah, sure.
Was this game included in the Project Rainbow movement?
So, I feel like this is
Yeah, we
tough.
have a list of Project Rainbow games in front of him.
No, I do. Okay, so the thing is, I'm gonna give it to you. It just wasn't called Project Rainbow, like at all.
Oh, right.
But I know what you're referring to, and yes, it was part of that.
Was it like Rainfall or Waterfall?
Yeah, it was Operation Rainfall.
There we go.
Yeah, now I have to look up Project Rainbow and see why that's the hell's stuck in my head. Okay, no. Project Rainbow was the name given by the CIA to a research project. Yeah, definitely not that.
I remember it had rain or some sort of aquatic term in it.
Yeah. All right, then it's God, the Lost Tower, the Last Tower. Sorry,
What were the other ones? There were 4
three.
or 5? Oh, 3.
no, there were 3.
Sorry.
So Xenoblade Chronicles, the Last Tower or the Lost Tower.
Talking about the
And-
last story? Is that the game you're talking about?
That's the one. And Pandora's Tower. I was getting them mixed up. Pandora's Tower and the Lost Story. There you go.
Crossing some. Yeah, you got all 3 games at least in some respect. Okay.
I mixed up the bloody thing with the CIA, so obviously my brain's not running full steam at the moment.
So, but we eliminated that it's a Xenoblade game because it's not part of a series. So it's either
Correct.
of the other 2.
So the Pandora's
I don't know.
Tower or whatever the hell the one Michael said was.
I know nothing about these 2 games at all.
Does this game take place inside of a tower?
This game does take place inside of a tower.
Oof. You're gonna have to ask the backup question if it takes place outside of a tower.
How many
The
questions
thing
are
is-
in?
That's 15 questions, so you got 4 more, I guess.
I think it's time for the meta question.
Well, I think we have named the 2 that it could possibly be.
I mean, we can confirm that.
Well, it's part of Project Rainfall, so we know that it's Operation Rainfall.
Oh, wait, did he say yes? Wait, you said yes to that?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, my bad. Okay, cool. All right, yeah, so it has to be
it's one of those 2.
one of those 3. Oh, actually, it's not
the tower.
Xenoblade, I guess. if
The
you
only
rule
thing
it
is,
out.
I know Pandora's Tower. I can picture the box art. It's a very dark box art, but I cannot remember a damn thing about the game.
Mm-hmm. Well, so what was the other
I
one
don't even
again?
know if I've seen the box art, the last story.
The last story is
last-
like a very bright one. That's why I remember them. The last story is like a white box art with
Yeah,
like
it's a white case.
characters back to back, and then Pandora's Tower is like a very dark one with like a solitary character in front of a tower.
Do we need to confirm that game also takes place in the tower? In some respects?
There's
No,
like
it-
one 5-second segment where they're walking up a tower.
Towers are popular in adventure and RPGs.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh god, wasn't Pandora's Tower by Sakaguchi, or am I getting confused with another game?
Not.
I've
Maybe.
got no idea.
You just bite the bullet. I mean, we've already confirmed that it's in a tower.
Is-
When I say Sakaguchi, for the listeners, I mean Hironobu Sakaguchi, creator of Final Fantasy.
I'm trying to remember details about the last story where I could ask a very specific, like, last story question.
All right, we'll say Michael's aligned with the last story, and I'm aligned with Pandora's Tower. Is this game aligned with me?
Oh my god. Okay. I think we've taken the meta question slightly too far.
I mean, it's a yes or no question. I have to answer it.
You don't have to
No,
answer
I was
that.
being silly with that one.
Oh, goodness me.
Because that's literally giving us the answer without us actually, like, putting forth an answer, putting forth an actual game.
I think it is the last.
Pandora's Tower.
I think it is Pandora's.
Yeah, I think it must be. Like, I don't really remember anything about this game. Like, I barely remember the name of it. So, like, I can't ask anything that will
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
narrow
Getting
it
them
down.
mixed up. It's literally, the only thing I remember is the box art and the name. If you're happy, I'm just going to throw it up.
Yeah,
So I
man.
can't
go
think
for
of
it.
anything we could do. Alright, is this game? Hang on, let me make sure it's actually called Pandora's Tower first.
Would it be cheeky just to ask if the word tower is in the title?
Yeah, but if it's
Is
called
it-
like
is that
Pandora's
whatever you
Lost
want?
Tower or something,
Is that a legal play?
Yeah, I mean, I'll answer that question gladly.
I feel like if we have the opportunity to ask it, we should.
Go for it.
Is the word tower in the title of this game?
The word tower is in the title of this game.
Okay.
Alright.
I think you got
Is
it
the-
then.
is this game Pandora's Tower?
Alrighty.
I would never have
So-
guessed this.
It's going to be like a really awkward time to find out that the last story also takes place in a tower, huh?
In a cutscene.
But no, alright, so it was developed by Genbarion, who actually is a really interesting developer, but that's a story for another day. And published by Nintendo in Japan and Europe, and Xseed Games in North America. This game has you taking control of a character whose name I forget and is not in front of me. Anyway,
Aaron.
there we go. Aaron. There we go. Who was a soldier from a kingdom that has basically kind of like, you know, been at war forever. Goes into a tower to sort of rescue his love interest, and everything turns to shit. So yeah, it is Pandora's Tower. So yeah, I kind of
Nice.
figured that like when you started talking about, as you call it, Project Rainbow, you would get to it eventually. I could have been really mean and said no, that it wasn't part of Project Rainbow.
You definitely could have.
I mean, it wasn't. But I knew what you're talking about. But yeah, I remember playing this game and like being like really kind of enamored with it, but also thinking it was kind of shit. And like looking at the way it was received back in the day, it kind of seems like that is the general sentiment, is that like it's a really charming game that's also quite bad.
The last story is the Sakaguchi one, so I'm glad.
Last
I didn't...
story
Okay.
is the Sakaguchi one, yeah. Which
So-
is also a lovely game. One of the earlier Mistwalker games. But anyway, yeah, you were successful on that one, which a little bit disappointing. But I'll just have to pick a much harder one next time. There's one that I have that is like so ridiculous, but also like very obviously like something you could get. And I think that I'm gonna have to go with that one next time because, yeah. Anyway,
Who said it? Who did the game?
oh, so this was by Jamie, who is one of
Cool.
our regular listeners. Often comments in the Discord as JDPcart18.
Yeah, nice.
Messaged me a long list. I also got a bunch of suggestions from Darren as well.
Good old Dazza.
Yeah. Who I'm told also sent a whole bunch of questions to Angelo, who has not used them.
He's only sent me like 3
Way to
in the
get
last.
called out. That's amazing.
I think he sent me like 3 or 4.
He literally said, I also sent Angelo my most evil suggestion yet, and he hasn't used it. So, yeah.
Oh god.
I'll use it.
Who's
I'll
next,
use it
by the
time.
way?
next
who
is technically
next?
Angelo.
Technically
Yeah, but
Angelo.
But I won't be here next episode.
That means it's Michael.
All right. Listeners, please send me some suggestions because I have run through my list entirely.
Yeah. And yeah, thanks for everyone who sends in suggestions. I get a couple on Twitter every now and then as well, and I do have like a big list of games, but some of them are just like so ridiculous that I don't think anyone could guess them.
I come up with mine on my own because I never get suggestions, and I have one that I in my back pocket when I want to be really evil.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's possible for you to be more evil when it comes to this game, but okay.
Trust me, this game is evil.
Okay.
Alrighty. So that about wraps up this week's Vookcast. Be sure to visit the site www.vooks.net for all your Nintendo news reviews and everything in between. To keep up to date, follow the site on Twitter and everything else at vooks.net, which is all spelled out. Or jump on over to our Discord at bit.ly/Vooks Discord. There's also just a link to the Discord from the Vooks main page, so if you don't want to type it all in, then just do that. You can find all of our social information, links for the stories covered in this episode, and all of the other relevant information in the episode notes on whatever platform you're listening to. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next fortnight.